Okay, so the purpose of this video, and I do have to be somewhat quiet because my family's asleep and I don't want to wake them up, even though I'm talking. The purpose of this video is to show you one of the features. Now, this is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Ableton said, because they sent me a thing that I think it's coming out March the 5th. So, like in 2 to 3 days, it's going to be ready. But this is the beta version I'm on still. But one of the things that's, well, first of all, there's a ton of things going on, but under your pitch and time, a lot of people don't know that this thing is moving in real time with regards to your humanization. So here's some drums that I played in. I have them at 20%, but just listen to them. You know what? Let me put this down to 10%, which is where it's usually at, right? So here's me. I played them in. They came in quantized at a 16th. Okay. So here's what it sounds like. You're gonna hear the rest of the track too. Okay, so you heard the track. So instead of and this is something that I'm just really happy about. Instead of just, okay, I could turn off the quantization, I could accept what I drum in, or I could leave it on and still adjust the humanization of it to make it sound more real. Now, I think, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of stuff has this, so don't get caught up in you have to have Ableton to do this. But one of the things that I like is, watch this. So like I'm at 10%. I'm gonna pay attention not to my hand moving over here, but to the notes, how as they move. So I'm gonna move them. I'm gonna put it at about 20%. You see I'm moving. You can slightly see, if you pay attention to the screen, that they're moving. So they're just moving a little bit. Now I'll listen to it at 20%. I'll do something real crazy. Pay attention to the kicks. It's a little off, and I like it. Ooh. So now let's do something crazy. I'm gonna go back to 20, but watch it. Watch it really get. You see it's moving. See it moving crazy off. All right, let's do like 50% or something close. That's really cool. What I like about it is that it's so subtle, but yet there. I can hear it because I played it in. It probably, if you're just watching this video, you'd have to go back and rewind just a little bit to listen to the original way. But I can see it when I move it back, how it does that versus like even at 50%. And I like that. So I'm gonna lock it in by just clicking there. Now it's locked in at where it's at. The other thing I always tell people too on this, that I like to do, and I'm only going to tell you what I like to do. There's no rule, so I'm just showing what I like, is just drop the deviation. See this deviation down here? This is your velocity deviation. Now, if you hit randomize, it's going to just randomize these as a whole, their velocities. I don't want to randomize the velocity because I set them when I played it kind of where I wanted it, but I am going to randomize the deviation. And the purpose of this is just so that when I make a duplicate copy of, let's say, these are 8 bars that I drummed out, right? So when I make a duplicate copy of those 8, and I did it in here already, you can see it's down to -40 for the snare. Then it's going to, each time I make a duplicate copy, it's going to have some variation in the way it plays, right? Oops, I meant to do the egg shakers too. So that's pretty cool. I do that actually, now I'm starting to do that more on everything that's Midi. If it's not Midi, obviously you're not gonna be adjusting like that because it's not Midi. But so like the flute, I'm not gonna do it on the flute because I don't know if I'm gonna play the flute twice. I'm probably gonna have some variation in the flute. The flute might become, it actually might become my hook, or a part of my hook, or I might use it as a lead. I'm not sure yet. I just played it, and by the way, I always believe in just playing it and just let it play how you play it, right? And if you mess up somewhere, just go back and play it again. Or if it's like one note or a couple notes, then adjust it. But other than that, just play that thing through and use your Midi capture. So that way, if you're playing and you're just playing over it, kind of jamming over it or whatever, and you come up with something that you really like, and you're like, man, I want to keep that, then just click on your Midi capture. And Logic has that. I guess Fruity Loops has it. I'm not sure on Fruity Loops. They may have it. But I know Logic has it for sure if you're on Logic, and a lot of people use Logic. So nothing wrong with that. But use those various tools. I know Logic also has MIDI transform, which allows you to vary the MIDI. I've shown that in maybe a past video when I was using Logic. You'll have to go dig through my channels and find that. But I did a little quick video showing how you can vary the velocities in there. And if you do that kind of stuff on your music, especially with like drums and repetitive things that you tend to find the most repetitive in the song, sometimes I'll do it a little bit on the bass too, which I haven't recorded a bass yet for this because I just started working on this, but I wanted to show you the whole thing with the humanization on there. So if you draw in notes and you like to draw in notes, this humanization feature is going to be nice. If you don't draw in notes, this humanization feature is going to be nice because it's going to allow you to slightly nudge things, move things around, but it's not all of it being nudged to the left or all of it being nudged to the right. It's going to randomly nudge certain little parts in here. And I think that's a beautiful thing in making music because there's stuff that like I would normally never want to click in anything, but because you have that as a feature, now I can see where it could be super beneficial. See, I use Midi, the generative tool for the hats, minus these. The ones that you see up here, this one and this one, are all me clicking those in. The rest of these were generated through here. And I like doing this on the hats so I get some different variations of the rhythms. And you'll see I have Humanize here, but I actually didn't use it. So let's do it together. Let's try to set it to about 30. And then we're going to lock that in by clicking it. And then we'll do the same here. By the way, you can just hit humanization right there if you want. Like if you just click on that, you can just hit it if you have your number set that you're okay with. But if you want to tweak it, the idea is that you can do it live. So let's try to see what it sounds like. Okay, I like that. So I'm going to leave it. Now this one, I didn't do this one. So, but if you want, you just click it, hit humanize, it'll do it. Same thing, you can hit humanize. And if you want some of these to be a little different, like if I click on this one, you can throw a little deviation on that, maybe throw some deviation in this. Each line can have its own little deviation of the velocity. And obviously you know what deviation means. So you're deviating from what you, so I have to go back and do this one a little bit different too, because you can make a copy of it or you can just get on here and manually do it. I like this manual stuff because sometimes the manually adjusting stuff can give you extra variety in the sound. Now this one I'm going to leave kind of consistent because I feel like if you do too much of it, the deviation, maybe a little bit. Let's just try it. Why the heck not? All right, let's go to this one. Click here. Little deviation there. Okay, now we'll go back to the beginning. Now you'll see on this one I took and I turned it off on the fixed grid for the snare. No, I mean that's good and bad, I guess. If you want to, you can also do 16 here, and then just do some humanization and move it in live. But what I noticed about it's gonna super randomize it. Let's try 50. Just that should be good enough. Oh wow, let's see what it says. Okay, not bad. Let's go into this one, lock it back on the grid, and humanize it. So if you're a person that you're not into drumming, you kind of like making music with the click stuff, I think this humanized feature is huge. And being able to do it in real time is even better. Sometimes I get to the point where I don't want to drum. I don't want to play anything like this. I just want, because I'm not a drummer either, but I just want to play this in and get the drums kind of locked in where I want them. I think this is an amazing feature, and it's going to also be good for things like chords. Now, what I have started doing, and so since we're talking about the humanization feature, if you've seen any of my videos prior to this video, you know that I leave the humanization on both timing and velocity and scalar if I'm using it, and I do play those chords in. But what I also started doing here was going into the notes and using the transform, and you'll see, so scalar is going to slightly offset some of these already for you, but then you can see go even further with the strumming feature. So this one's strummed a little bit that more low at the top, and then just to really get it to randomize. And then the other thing is you see the deviation. I'm using deviation on chords too, and the purpose of using that is to, again, let's see, I put it down here, to eliminate it from sounding so repetitive if you're using an 8-bar loop. So and I say I don't use loops on everything, but obviously there's something in the song. If it's a pop song, if it's anything that's catchy, it's gonna have some little loop in it. But I like to create some variance in it that gives you a distinct sound that's different. And that's why you'll hear me, I'll use like a lead, or I'll use some type of something that may be off a little bit in the song, if that makes sense, just to give it some variety. But not much. It's usually just a little nudge here, a little nudge there, slight variance in the velocity. All right, so that's it for this video. I just wanted to show you guys mostly the humanized feature that's in there. One of the things that, and this is my last thing on Ableton right now, I'm gonna say is, if you want all your stuff to show up in here inside the MIDI transform as to the lock to the scale, make sure you set the scale first, before you start really locking in recording. Because if you don't, then what happens is when you play something, it's just going to be set to the basic C major, and you're going to have to go back and change each one of your keys. Like, see, these are locked now because I locked it in before I start playing it. So that's just something to remember with the scale portion of using Ableton Live. 12, if you're going to get 12. If you got 11, you know that feature is not in 11, so you don't have to worry about any of that scale lock stuff. And I will say this, 12 is going to be a great to have, but if you got 11, probably the biggest feature for me, difference that I think makes it stand out the most, is honestly these generative stuff that you see me using. So like the strumming and the transform, and then the generative stuff. If you don't really like the generative stuff, if that's not really your bag, like you don't really care about that, the humanization features and the fit to scale and things of that nature, then and you don't care about, the filters, being able to filter through stuff, and you don't care about, then it's probably not worth jumping to the next one. What I would say is maybe get on maybe get on the beta if you can. If you got the Suite 11, try the beta out for a little while. And then if you really like it, like you get caught up in the making stuff on it, you just like it that much, then go ahead and upgrade. And if not, I don't know when they're going to drop Ableton Live 13. It could be 3 years from now. Who knows? But I don't see them dropping it anytime soon. So check out 12 on, if you can get the beta, check out 12 there. If you don't have it at all, check out the what is the other thing? Check out the demo version, because the demo version is usually the full version of the suite, and you get it for like 90 days. So check that out. And I highly suggest, if you are going to buy it now, like pre-order with the 20% off, because that's the best deal right now going. It's, yeah, sure, up front it's a lot of money. There's no question about that. It's going to be a lot more money to buy this up front. But if you decide you really want it, and when I say that to people, I say it's not a necessity to have this, but if you like, you need to know that you like some of the Ableton effects. You need to know that you like some of the Ableton tools, or maybe you even seen some of the, I'm gonna call them third party, some of the other developers who make Max for Live stuff. If you don't like the Max for Live, if you don't like some of these other tools, you can always rock with the intro version with 16 tracks and be just fine if you don't need more tracks than that. I think it's like $100 to get the intro version, and it'll save you a lot if you're not going to use the Max for Live stuff, because that's really what the suite brings you, gives you the Max for Live and all the tools that you can use other people's developments that they're using. Otherwise, I like it. I'm gonna be honest, it's really fun. And for me, it every time I get in here, I feel creative enough to try something new and make stuff. Sure, I use some of the same devices, but people do that anyway, no matter which one you get, as long as you're having fun and making music. And by the way, Fruity Loops can do a lot of things that Ableton can do. Ableton can do some things that Fruity Loops can't do, and Fruity Loops can do some things that Ableton can't do. I hope I said that right. But anyway, you get the point. Use whatever you have, use whatever you can afford, and just make music, because that's what it's really about in the end. It doesn't matter which software you have, just as long as you're happy and making music. All right, I'm out.